There is nothing quite like watching Tyreek Hill play wide receiver. In a year where he's on pace to beat Megatron's single-season record, 1,964 yards, NFL defenses have been repeatedly torn to shreds, completely helpless trying to slow him down. Hours turned to days, turned to weeks of defensive coordinators grinding film to come up with answers to stop him. But with 1,540 yards, still with 4 games to go, the best of the best in coaching still don't have a single clue. When you turn on the film, you can see them try every coverage imaginable, everything in the bag, but spoiler, nothing has worked. Today we'll dive into each of those coverage wrinkles, why defenses think they will work, and why they don't. But before we do, I want to thank this week's sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy sports site where you can play players' numbers every day. If your fantasy season just went in the toilet, you're eating waffles, Sports Illustrated calendar, blow up doll at dinner, whatever, well, you're still gonna do that, but your fantasy season now isn't over. PrizePicks has you choose 2 to 6 players and select whether they go more or less than their projection number. I'm feeling pretty worried about Eckler this year in general, but PrizePicks is giving me 37% off his number, so I'll ride with him. And I'll fade Dak off a big-time primetime win because this 295 number feels a little too high. PrizePicks is the fastest withdrawals of any daily fantasy app I've used. You load up the app, it's super quick, super easy, and they're doing a deal where if you use my promo code Rollins, they will match your first deposit up to $100. You put in 100, boom, now it's 2. Right away, it's obvious how terrified defenses are of him because of how much zone coverage he faces. Teams know nobody can match him man-on-man because he'll just torch you with speed, so they deploy a wide variety of different zone coverages to try to stop him. 75% of his catches have come against zone, so while teams are using more zone to defend him, it's still not very successful. They've identified his favorite route in this Dolphins offense is this intermediate post that hits right over the second level, which is the linebackers, and right in front of the third level, which is the safeties. Tua has unbelievable anticipation in throwing into these microscopic windows to hit the post, and Tyreek's speed allows him to create just enough space at the catch point to win repeatedly. Naturally, teams want to play zone coverage while also bumping him at the line of scrimmage to slow down some of that speed. The best way to not turn things into a track meet is to bump receivers at the line or while they're running their route, but the Dolphins have answers for that. Here the Raiders are playing cover 3 zone, so they'll have 3 deep defenders, with one of them being a free safety Nate Hobbs can guide Tyreek towards. He was going to bump him at the line while playing press zone bail, so he'll slow down Cheetah while gaining depth and pushing him inside. However, Mike McDaniel knows cover 3 corners can't press a receiver in a stack because Hobbs could get picked where maybe Tyreek rubs him and Jalen Waddle runs a corner. So as defensive rules go, Hobbs has to back off. This gives Tyreek the coveted free release where he can get to top speed, which he does faster than any receiver I have ever seen in my entire life. And look what Hobbs is tasked with doing. He's supposed to stick tight in coverage, but also has to be ready to get burned over the top. Whenever your hips are flipped like this as a defensive back, the receiver has you cooked. And since the post safety has to respect the deep ball, he can help over the middle on these quick-hitting posts. The third level, the deep guys, are taken away by Tyreek's speed, and the second level can't get depth because they're preoccupied with all the crazy things McDaniel does in the backfield. Typically, when a tight end is sifting across the formation to block, it's a running play. So Chris Spillane, who's one of the second-level defenders, has to honor that, and look how he's biting up for the run action instead of getting depth on Tyreek. Manipulating those second-level linebackers is what McDaniel does best, so defenses try to take some stress off their second-level defenders by dialing up a variation of cover 3 zone called cover 3 buzz, where they'll have a safety rotate down into the second level as what's called a hook defender. This keeps the third level over the top, while giving the second level more depth right into that post window. But the Dolphins again have answers, and obviously, so does Tyreek. This is 3rd and 8, so the hook defender has to honor the sticks, so the Dolphins send a receiver directly at him who he has to account for, so he can't flow back into that post window. Cheetah knows he'll have a little space behind the hook defender, but still has to create space outside to make sure Marcus Peters isn't nailing down on his route. And here we see 2 of his best attributes: his ability to maintain high-level speed during the route, and his ability to catch in traffic. The NFL has drafted a million different receivers who are probably 90 to 95% as fast as him in the last few decades, but the John Rosses of the world flame out because they can't run routes while moving so dang fast. It makes sense, it's harder to run precise routes when you're moving at the speed of light, but that is what separates Tyreek from every other speed receiver. He can still run elite routes while at top speed. He gives Peters the boom boom at the top of his route to widen him, while still moving extremely quick. Then, for a 5'10 receiver to be able to play as big as he does with exceptional catch in traffic, exceptional ability to sky and high point balls, he is the total package for a guy who maybe gets a rep as only a speed demon. When the Raiders say, okay, our buzz defender is getting sucked up a little too far, we need to keep him right in that post window and make sure no matter what we are stopping Tyreek's post, well, that's when his route running comes into play. This is quarter, half, so think of it as still 3 deep zone coverage, but 2 defenders are closer, playing deep quarters to one side, and then the third defender has to play an entire half and cover more ground on the other. This should be the best coverage to take care of that route, but he doesn't run it. Remember how he consistently gets defenders to flip their hips? Well, despite the fact that Marcus Peters is supposed to guard a deep quarter with outside leverage on him, Tyreek's speed forces him to flip his hips, making him unable to throttle back down for the outbreaker. And with about 7 yards of separation at the catch point, it's just way too easy. The Raiders realized zone coverage wasn't working, but knew man-on-man wouldn't either. So they said, screw it, we are just going to literally commit 2 defenders to him and bracket him, meaning we aren't really playing 3 deep, 4 deep, none of that. Just you have anything inside, you have anything outside. But Tyreek knows how to defeat that too. For elite receivers who face these type of brackets, the Julios, the Cooper Kupps, Justin Jeffersons, they know the golden rule is to choose one of the defenders in the bracket and attack him to create as much of a one-on-one as possible. First, Tyreek sells straight up the field like he's going to split him to make Cobbs commit deep and come in closer. Tyreek knows that typically brackets assign the safety anything deep and inside, and the corner anything underneath and outside, so it's critical he uses his speed to get Hobbs to flip his hips early to create that outside space. He gives a pressure step to the outside into Hobbs' blind spot to force him out of his comfort zone, gives another one up the seam to force him even further that way, then uses a push-by technique to create tons and tons of space. This is exactly what the Eagles were worried about when they bracketed him. They kept James Bradberry a little lower and outside to make sure he didn't run that same route, but Tyreek saw Bradberry low and Terrell Edmunds waiting for the post and just ran right past the both of them. Since teams can't create tight coverage in zone, even if they're creating these pseudo-double teams, or with the brackets, literal double teams, they try another approach, man coverage with a safety shaded over the top. Defenses will position a safety deep, which allows the corner to play tighter coverage while knowing he has that safety help deep. This is a typical tactic used against elite receivers. But the typical rules of coverage just don't apply to Tyreek, and it's all because of his speed. He doesn't even have a crazy release package or anything like that, just a quick single move or double move and that's that. But everything is so damn quick, it's impossible to stop. Here Dante Jackson has outside leverage on him where he's trying to play tight man coverage, and if Tyreek wants to run an in-breaker, he'll just funnel him to his safety help. But he creates immediate separation at the line of scrimmage to break that leverage, neutralizes that safety help completely, and creates what's now essentially a one-on-one. He doesn't get enough credit for just how smart he is. His football IQ is sky high, where he can predetermine things based on little tells in the defense that alert him what's going to happen before it happens. Here he sees the Giants have a pretty strange look pre-snap with one high safety and 2 more intermediate ones. They're trying to keep a roof on the defense and make sure they have someone sitting in that post window, but they also have their cornerback playing inside leverage when he should be outside to funnel Tyreek to all his help. Corners with inside leverage are really just trying to push receivers to the sideline. They're guarding the inside with their leverage, then trying to use the sideline as another defender. So Tyreek feels that and knows if he clears space off the line, he is a walk-in touchdown by just staying vertical up the sideline. To give him better matchups, they'll sometimes bump him inside, and he's just as dominant there as he is outside. When they see the safety is shaded away from him, typically you run fades away from that one high safety, but since the nickel corner knows that's what you do, Tyreek torches him inside, then goes outside because he knows that you know, and he scores a touchdown. Tyreek Hill is simply a different beast. We've seen great receivers in NFL history put up unbelievable numbers, but none who really dominate in the same way he does. His game is speed, 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 and while we've talked today why he's not just that, who of the all-time dominant receivers is even comparable to him in the history of our game? There is simply no answer for him. There are a lot of coverages you can try to play, but no coverage that can actually stop him. He is well on his way to breaking the single season record, and for my money, he should be the MVP.